So now I am at what I would deem to be the height of my career. Okay, the absolute height of my career. And the reason why I say that is because this is the place where I decided I'm going to retire here. Okay, that was the place where I'm like, okay, I know the ins and outs. I'm comfortable enough. Ownership, all that good stuff is good. This is the place I'm going to retire here. Okay, I had good benefits, all of those things. And at this point where I am now operations manager over the property management division, I get a contract. I get a whole, not just signing an employee agreement, I get a contract. And I had never experienced that before. Now, mind you, I will have to say this because this part of it is important of how it played a role in why I was so completely devastated. Up until this point, and still can carry it out, I had began to receive not only company benefits, but company perks. Okay? The perks that would come along with it was, first it was, company paying for my gas. The other part of it was, they would pay for certain food items. I had a company vehicle. It got to the point where I had a company vehicle that I drive. Okay, this was like I think it was a Volkswagen Beetle vehicle. So this was like a nice car. I was driving a company vehicle, right? So when I say I was at the top of my career, and in my head, it's like, okay, I have all these company perks, everything's good, everything's great. I'm definitely retiring here. Okay, they were paying my phone at this point especially when I got this contract. And you got to be careful with these. Okay, so company benefits are good. Company perks, you want to be careful because perks come with strings. Perks come with strings. I remember, and I thought this was so cute. I thought it was so funny. But I remember when the company actually paid for my company phone. Okay, when they gave me a company phone, I was so excited. It was an iPhone. I was upgraded. Like, everything is cool. I was so excited. And I remember the owner at that point, she made a comment and she said, so, hey, we're giving you this phone. We're paying for it. But every time I call, you better answer. Okay, and oh, you better believe it, did that whole thing. And it's like, this is so cute, this is so funny, but I didn't realize that literally these perks came with strings, and that was a literal statement. So what happened is I was working so incredibly hard. I was still doing these early mornings, still doing these late nights, all of that. I had no life, okay? I had no real life anyway. Didn't have that work-life balance, and I was doing all those things, and I took it so literal. I took it so literal that I worked all the time. I worked for my dollar. And it's important that I say it that way because I worked for my dollar. Okay? I learned later on, okay, that it's not that serious. It's not that serious. And when you get to the point where you're working for your dollar, you must reevaluate things. You have to. That's a whole completely different thing, but you have to reevaluate things. I was working for my dollar, and I was masking it as I'm grinding. I lost time for my family. I lost time for my friend. I was always working, always busy, always doing something. And for me, again, a entirely different thing. It was a distraction for me because I had other things that I was working through personally. Okay. But that's what I did. I worked for my dollar. And I remember, before I get back to my contract, because that part is important. This is the part where I knew something should have been up. Right? I had someone who was very close to me growing up. She was, I mentioned that my great-grandmother was the one that raised me. She helped us so much from a standpoint of, we had another home to go to. Whenever there was cookouts and dinners and a good meal and catfish and all that stuff, her house was the one that we were going to. and constantly in church, standing in the word. Like, that was the place, one of the secondary places that we would go to. Her husband would come over and, you know, try to fix anything that happened with the house if he could fix it. Those sort of things. They were there for us all throughout my childhood growing up. And I haven't gotten into that particular story yet, but just so you have a frame of mind, I believe my youngest sister at the time was 9 months old, and my brother was 7, and it was 6 kids. Okay, so it was a lot to deal with, a lot to handle. So that relief was very, very important. This lady was a part of that. Okay, loved her to pieces. She was literally like the mother of the city. Okay, she was literally like the mother of the city. When I should have known something was wrong, okay, when she passed away, and I almost had to beg to go to her funeral. I didn't take vacations. I didn't call out of work. I didn't come in late. Once I got to a point, you know, my car situation was figured out. That was a different story. But I was not one of those people. And if I wasn't there, I was working from home. I was that dedicated. And when she passed away, I felt like I had to almost beg to get off of work. Have you lost your mind? I remember, and I still, even then, tried not to get out of character, but I remember at that moment thinking, if they don't let me go to this lady's funeral, I'm going to have to quit my job. I should have known something was wrong then. Every perk comes with a string. Every perk comes with a string attached. Okay, so you got to remember that. But I had some perks. Okay, but anyway, so to this contract, so I had my first like real big woman, big job contract, and with this contract, right, I made a certain amount of money. And I think it was over a period, I don't know if it was 3 years initially or 5 years initially, but whenever I did the growth track for this contract, by the time that I got to the end of this contract, or the last year of this contract, I would be making 6 figures. So I'm like, this is it. This is it. This is my ticket, right? This is where I want to be. Now, remember, my previous mindset was I was good at $35,000, and that had shifted, that had changed, that had grown. So this contract to me was like, yes, this is it. So anyways, I get to the point we do that, and we're working, and there's things changing with the company, and all of that, and not all good changes. But a part of my role and my responsibility now as the operations manager was to make sure that I was the front face of the company, but taking all the blows from the back. Okay, so I was to put in a good face, right, for the customer, for the client, and which I wanted to do anyway, because you want to protect the client's experience regardless of what's going on in the background, right? So that's what I was responsible for, but while taking the blows in the back. So all the stuff going on, all the changes, all the disgruntled realtors, all the disgruntled, kind of employees, things that they're going on. Like some people are just seeing the writing on the wall. Like, this is not good. This is not, wherever this is going, it's not good. And people were hopping off the train. Well, when that happens, right, it creates resentment. It creates distrust. It creates an uncertainty. And a lot of that was passed on to me, and I had nothing to do with it, right? Nothing to do with it. But a lot of that was passed on to me. And that's important to note, because when it comes time that I'm actually fired, that's good background information to know. So anyway, so we're kind of going through all these things, and I'm still at a point where I'm seeing what's going on with the company. I'm seeing some writing on the wall, but I'm like, man, I have been dedicated to this company. I am loyal to this company. I'm loyal to the owners here. I want to see this company be a success, little bumps in the road, little hurdles does not mean the end, right? It doesn't have to mean the end. So I wanted to help them get over this hurdle, get over this bump in the road, and see if we can turn things around. Now, from a financial standpoint, a customer standpoint, we were still doing quite well. It was just everything, the turmoil on the back end of things. You cannot have a cancerous spirit in your business and expect for it to last. And that's where we were. Okay. So we're going through this whole thing, and there are several points along the way where I'm fed up and I'm tired. There are several points along the way as people are leaving, as people are getting off the train, they're getting off the boat, they're like, out of here, bye, see you later. There are several points along the way where I'm like, I don't know. With this job in particular, I won't get into details now, with this job in particular, being in the company of these people and in these owners, because of some things that were going on, I myself had begun to compromise. Okay, began to compromise with my walk, began to compromise with my own standards. And even though I wasn't wilding out here in these streets, there were certain things that I would begin to overlook that I wouldn't have overlooked before. There were certain things that I would begin to let slide that I would not have let slide before. And it's very important to note that when you are in an environment that is impacting you more than you're impacting them, it is time to leave. And at that time, I hadn't recognized the urgency of that. I had not recognized the direction of my ways, of the slow and gradual turn, the slow and gradual compromise, the slow and gradual slip. I had not recognized that. But in hindsight, looking back, it is so very important. It doesn't matter how much your contract states, how much is on the line. If God is on the line with it, everything else has to go. Everything else has to go. So I'm here, I'm dealing with all these things, and it's getting closer. I'm like, okay. And really trying to decide within myself, how much more will I take? And throughout this process, I'm like, okay, cool. Still loyal, still want to help, still want to be there. So I'm like, okay, cool. Think, girl, think. What can you do? So I sit there and I'm in the process. I'm building, I'm drafting a plan, I'm drafting a proposal for this, for at least the property management side of things, because at that point, that's what I was over. I am drafting an entire plan, a new business model, because there were a lot of different things going on. So I'm drafting a new business model that can help the company keep its current clients, but also bring it back around from the state that it was in, or the direction it was going in, and be able to basically revive itself. So I'm in the process of creating this and developing it. It included some new package options, all of these things, things that some of our customers were asking about and hadn't received yet, but that we could actually implement. So I'm doing all these things, and in the process of this, the owners decided that they needed to, because of everything going on kind of in the background, that they needed to make some changes, right? And they had been making a lot of different changes that impacted several people, several realtors, several employees, but they needed to make some changes. Now, a lot of these conversations, I was able to sit in on, because at that point I was there for a lot of decisions. I was really the point person at that point, I would say, for customer relations, but really to make sure that nobody gets super extra ticked off, right? It was kind of like trying to balance the boat while they kind of made it through this whole process. So, enough of those conversations I was able to be a part of. And then slowly but surely, I was not a part of a lot of these conversations. And then it gets to the point where they are reevaluating pay, and they are reevaluating contracts. Now for me, Miss Loyalty, I'm like, oh, okay. All right, this is all for whatever. Now in this process, the operations manager for the real estate side said deuces, gone, right? She's gone. See the writing on the wall, bye, got to go. So I'm still there and juggling now both sides of things pretty much. So I'm like, okay, you guys, they got a few things to change, but there was no conversation with me about this. Okay. Instead, how I learned about the change is right before one of our company meetings, which was not typical for me to get any information just right before the meeting. But again, things had started to change. So right before one of the company meetings, the owner came in and she said, hey, I was going by Latrice at the time. So, hey, Latrice, how are you doing? Just wanted to let you know really quick that we have some changes going on, but don't worry about it. It's not a huge deal to you. Okay. So I'm like, okay, cool. Cool, girl, we won't worry. We're not worried over here. And I just asked her really quick, okay, so what are some of the changes? Okay, so they were changing the pay structure. Okay, changing the pay structure. Now, she told me very briefly, didn't go into too much details, didn't break down all the numbers, didn't do all of that. None of that, just told me very briefly, and then went off to this meeting. I said, oh, okay. Interesting. I got about a good 10 minutes before the meeting starts while everybody uses the restroom. Let me do some calculations. Okay. So I started doing some calculations. I started doing all of that and start looking at what this change meant for me personally. It meant a $30,000 pay reduction. Now, mind you, in my simple mind before, that would have been my entire pay annually, but in a pay reduction. Okay, so I had gotten to a place where, okay, cool, but the principle of it was how I was told this information. Little old loyalty me, how I was told this information, and then told you, girl, don't worry about it. Like I can't do math. So just to make sure I was accurate, I sat through this meeting. I listened to the changes as they explained to the team. I did all of that. And then give me some paperwork to review. And I reviewed it and I did all of that. And initially, and I had said this to myself before, if they need me to take a pay reduction, I will, because I'm that committed to the company. That was my thought initially, right? Before, the whole situation happened of how I was told. So I'm sitting here and I'm just like, oh no, don't sit right with me. And in my contract, I was under a contract. I think I still had like 3 years left on this contract, whatever the case may be. So in my contract, if one of us broke the contract early, then we owed the other one 6 months pay. Like there was like 4 to 6 months of pay or something like that. It was a nice size package, like severance package. I had read my contract. Okay, so at this point, I knew that this change was not okay. It wasn't okay for you just to go ahead and implement. It wasn't okay for you not to discuss it before me. And it definitely wasn't okay for you to tell me, don't worry about it, while you're making a $30,000 change to my employment. So I play it cool. I sit on it for a few days or whatever the case may be. I know that based on the other changes throughout the company, everything was a touchy situation. So I knew that I wanted to handle it delicately. I had been planning this whole new model change, brand, kind of model change for that particular department, all these things. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask for a meeting. And in the meeting, I'm going to ask about my pay, but I'm also going to present this particular model and kind of just see what they say. I wanted to have an open discussion about what was going on, what was the plan moving forward, and why I should stay. Okay. So I requested at that point, of course, I had the owner's cell phone. I text her like I normally do, and I asked for a meeting. When I asked for a meeting, the response that I got back at me, I said, hey, are you available, later on for, a quick meeting so we can discuss some things. The response that I got back was, are you leaving? That was the response that I got back. And I said, no, not really, but I do want to discuss some things. I'll have you know that not even within 5 minutes, the owner told me, now at this point, I had been there just shy of 5 years, I would say, if not 5 years. Not even in 5 minutes, the owner wrote me back and told me, you're fired. I want you to get off the premises or I will call the cops on you for trespassing. Literally that quick. Now, if you guys know this company, it seems like it's out of a movie. It seems absolutely bizarre. It seems absolutely crazy, like I maybe cussed her out before this or something else had to have happened in order for me to get that response. Me, Little Miss Loyalty, to get that response. But if you knew what company it was, people in the local area probably know exactly what it is and say, yep, that sounds just like it. I just never believed that it would happen to me. I never thought in a million years. I heard stories. I heard people say things of how they were treated. I heard all of those things, but not Little Miss Loyalty. I never thought that it would happen to me. The reason why that was so significant, not just in how short and how rude, how abrasive the entire thing was when I requested a meeting, but what was so significant about it is beforehand, like little comments, little jokes, little things beforehand, there will be a lot of activity going on in the office. Okay. And I'm not going to go into all of it because not all of it is a learning opportunity. Right. So there's a time frame where you can go from telling a story or telling a thing to testify or to teach. And then there's a moment where you just return back to gossip. Okay. So there's some things that I won't mention here, but there was a lot of activity going on in the office behind the scenes. And there will be little comments, little jokes here and there of, oh yeah, if anything happens, basically I'm going to be the fall guy. Okay. Or if, there was another comment made, another joke, prior before, calling the cops on Black people in the area that we were in, because we were in a very nice area of town when it comes to where our office was located, where our, the level that our clientele was at, all of those things, very nice areas of town. So there were already like jokes and things put out there before me, and there was probably like one other Black person on the staff and on the team. So those little jokes like, oh, okay, like we gonna make sure we throw you out there, or if we call the cops, you're getting taken away first. Like just little jokes and little things like sprinkled here and there. So when that comment was made, not even a phone call, when you text me, when you message me and tell me that I need to leave immediately or you're going to call the cops on me for trespassing, I know you mean it. I know you absolutely, positively mean it. So I gave my final instructions to the team. I didn't cause any ruckus. I didn't cause any ruckus up until this point. I had some thoughts. I had some thoughts about leaving, but no plans, nothing like that. So this is a place that's completely foreign to me, something that is completely foreign to me. But I'm getting out of here. You better bet your bottom dollar I'm getting out of here. I gave my final instructions to the team. Again, very even kill. I went to my assistant property manager at the time and gave instructions. Hey, here are the things that's still on the task list. They need to be done. This is the instructions you need to give over to maintenance. Here's what we need from the admin team. Gave out my instructions, and I began to get my stuff to leave because I'm getting out of here. I get out to the parking lot. Now, up until this point, again, all the perks, all of that, paying for phones, they're doing all of this. And I had been slowly but surely taking some of those responsibilities back. Why? I had no idea, because everybody loves perks. But I started slowly but surely kind of backing myself up for some of the things that they were giving me. All the grocery trips and all that. Now, you okay? You know what I'm saying? So I slowly but surely started backing those things out. Didn't have any idea why, but I believe now that was preparation in what was to come. So to me, what seemed like an utter surprise, God was not shocked. God was not shocked in the least bit. Okay? So at this point, it is absolutely bananas. I'm going out, I'm leaving in the parking lot, I'm about to get in my car and leave. And at this point, yes, I'm driving my car. So I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving. And the co-owner of the property says, hey, you know, what's going on? Of course, he heard the sharp response or whatever, saw it or at some point, whatever. So he had wound up coming back to the office, and he met me out in the parking lot, and he was just talking and said, hey, like, what's going on? Like, you know, why are you leaving? Are you packing up? Whatever the case may be. I told him exactly what happened. And I told him about, listen, I was asking for a meeting, one, to ask what's going on with the pay, but two, also to present a different way, you know, so we don't have to go down and go out the way that we're going out, to present a different way. And he asked me at that time, he said, well, you know, I'm really sorry. I apologize on behalf of the company, you know, all that good stuff. And he's a very nice guy. But when he did all that, I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I wouldn't even step back in the office to have a conversation with him. And the same thing that I told him, I said, I can't do it. Because if she'll do it to me once, she will do it to me again. And the next time, I may not be so lucky. And I got my little self who does not believe in leaving one job without having another. I got my little self who had my contract of a lifetime at the moment, who had all the perks and everything that I could even dare to want. I got my little self in my car. I cranked it up and I left that parking lot for the last time. I will catch you guys in the next part.